across Ethiopia's vast geography, from bustling cities to remote rural communities. Preparations for the country's 7th general election have reached final stage. What is unfolding is more than a routine electoral exercise. It is a defining institutional movement for one of Africa's largest and most strategically significant nations. With more than 54 million registered voters expected to participate, the election, as pointed out by foreign observers, is one of the continent's most consequential democratic processes. It reflects not only political competition, but also the growing operational maturity of Ethiopia's electoral institutions. Ahead of the polls, the National Election Board of Ethiopia announced the successful completion of all logistical and operational preparations for the historic votes. National Election Board of Ethiopia chairperson Milatur Kailu stated that the board has finalized every major phase of the electoral process, officially transitioning into the final implementation stage. According to the board, Monday's vote represents a substantial institutional advancement compared to the previous electoral cycles, marked by broader political inclusion, improved technological systems, stronger administrative coordination, and expanded public participation. A closer examination of the electoral framework reveals a striking trajectory of institutional progress. Unlike the previous elections, the 7th general election has demonstrated higher level of logistical readiness, digital modernization, media inclusivity, and regulatory sophistication. The process reflects a state institution that has evolved significantly in both organizational capacity and democratic administration. First-time use of digital voter candidate registration systems. One of the most notable transformations has been National Election Board of Ethiopia's introduction of digital voter and candidate registration systems for the first time in Ethiopia's electoral history. Through the Mirchai My Election mobile application, citizens were able to register digitally using smartphones, while tablets distributed to polling officials enabled in-person registration nationwide in partnership with Ethio Telecom. The transition from paper-based systems to digital infrastructure significantly reduced bureaucratic delays, minimized logistical inefficiencies, and improved transparency. In addition, election materials, including sensitive ballots printed abroad under secure arrangements, have already been distributed across constituencies nationwide. Candidate registration, voter registration, and the establishment of special polling stations were all completed within the planned operational timeline. Civic organizations and election observers have described the digital transition as a major qualitative leap for Ethiopia's electoral administration, helping modernize election management while expanding accessibility across geographically challenging regions. Wide political and media space. Another defining feature of the 7th general election has been the unprecedented expansion of political participation and public debate. For the first time in Ethiopia's history, National Election Board of Ethiopia directly organized and supervised nationwide political debates in collaboration with the Ethiopian News Agency. Under the initiative, 19 nationally broadcast debate forums were conducted in 5 languages across public and private media platforms. The debates brought together political parties, civil society representatives, academics, and university students to deliberate on key national issues. A total of 33 political parties participated in discussions covering 19 major policy areas, presenting competing visions and programs before the electorate. To ensure equitable political competition, National Election Board of Ethiopia also allocated free campaign airtime to political parties, including 782.5 hours of radio broadcasting, 520 hours of television airtime, and 576 newspaper columns. In parallel, more than 220,000 party representatives, 64 media institutions, and 1,814 journalists received accreditation to monitor and report on the election process. Voter sovereignty and institutional neutrality. As the country approaches election day, National Election Board of Ethiopia has introduced additional safeguards. aimed at protecting voter independence and reinforcing public trust in the process. Following the conclusion of the nationwide debates, the board officially declared the beginning of the electoral silence period, a mechanism designed to allow voters adequate time for reflection free from political pressure or last-minute campaigning. The board has also strengthened its complaint handling procedures by assigning independent, politically unaffiliated professionals to oversee electoral grievances and disputes. Domestic civic participation has similarly expanded. National Election Board of Ethiopia granted voter education license to 169 civil society organizations, with 114 receiving financial support from the board. Observer accreditation was also issued to 55 domestic civil society organizations to enhance transparency and public oversight. These measures collectively indicate a broader institutional effort to reinforce electoral neutrality, accountability, and citizen confidence. Pan-African partnership and continental confidence. Beyond domestic preparations, the election has also attracted significant continental engagement, underscoring growing African ownership of democratic process across the region. The African Union Election Observation Mission, led by former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, deployed 73 short-term observers drawn from 37 African countries, with women comprising 61% of the mission. Similarly, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development (IGAD) Election Observation Mission, led by the former Ugandan Vice President Specio Wandira Kazibwe and former Speaker of Djibouti's National Assembly Mohamed Ali Hamoud, deployed regional experts to observe polling day procedures and assess electoral compliance. Guided by continental democratic frameworks, including the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, these missions reflect a broader continental commitment to supporting credible African-led democratic institutions. Their presence also signals growing regional confidence in Ethiopia's electoral process and institutional capacity. A defining moment. As Ethiopians prepare to vote on June 1, the country's 7th general election stands as more than a political contest. It represents a test of institutional endurance, democratic administration, and national coordination on a massive scale. The combination of expanded voter participation, digital modernization, broader political engagement, strengthened oversight mechanisms, and continental observation reflect a significant evolution in Ethiopia's democratic architecture. With more than 54 million citizens registered to vote, the election is increasingly being viewed as a major indicator of the country's institutional trajectory and a demonstration of how electoral systems in Africa can evolve through domestic reform, technological adaptation, and growing continental partnership. Ethiopia has now entered the final stretch of a historic democratic moment, the close of the mandatory electoral silence that followed weeks of intense campaigning, fierce debates, and competing visions from 42 political parties ahead of the June 1st general election. In this brief pause, the noise of slogans has faded and the political streets have grown unusually quiet, not from apathy, but from anticipation. It is a silence filled with reflection, a national moment in which millions of citizens weigh promises against realities and aspirations against experience. Across towns and villages, from early morning conversations to late night thoughts, voters are no longer persuaded by speeches or rallies. Instead, they are guided by memory, judgment, and hope. And now, as dawn approaches, Ethiopia stands at the edge of decision. Tomorrow morning, millions will no longer speak in words or arguments. They will speak in ballots, shaping the country's next chapter with a single collective voice.